Let me start with you, Gloria. What are we seeing in the election manifestos of the various political parties with respect to defence policies?
Well, all the parties, without exception, pretty well, are pledging enormous sums of money to Britain's defence. Read defence, often war. And this is very alarming. I'll just go swiftly through the four main parties: Conservative, Labour, Lib Dem, and Reform. And taking my cue from their manifestos, the Conservative Party, here's a quote: they pledge to protect British interests in an increasingly, they say, hostile world, and they guarantee their support to Ukraine. That's unequivocal in the Conservative manifesto. And then if we move to the Labour Party manifesto, and Labour is predicted by the pollsters, can we trust their predictions? Who knows? They are speaking of, very concerning this, an unshakable commitment to NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, described by Dr. Rima Labo as a war compact to make war happen. So there's Labour with an unshakable commitment to NATO. NATO is now 32 countries strong and encroaching, Robert will talk about this, strongly on Russia. And they also pledge 2.5% of GDP, gross domestic product, to defence. To put that in concrete terms, that's equivalent to around £57 billion. That's a sum that would buy us 550 or so new hospitals and would finance the school budget for a complete financial year. And there's an ominous warning in the Labour Party manifesto, and it reads as follows: I warn people, some of the decisions we will have to take will not be easy. And this is Sir Keir Starmer speaking. He says he's reformed a public service before, the Crown Prosecution Service. I know how hard it is. And since he's flagged up the CPS, it's worth pointing out that key emails and records while he was leading the CPS relating to both the Jimmy Savile case and also the Julian Assange case, key emails and records relating to those two cases have disappeared. They're not there anymore. In the case of the Savile case, as we know, 4 dossiers supporting a prosecution against Jimmy Savile were submitted to the CPS by both Sussex and Surrey police. And the CPS declared famously that there was no case to answer. And those papers have all disappeared, just as the papers connected with Julian Assange have disappeared as well. And in fact, the CPS, through freedom of information requests, has been found to have fast-tracked Assange's extradition to Sweden. Never happened, but they were attempting to do that. And they were also advising Swedish lawyers not to question Assange in Britain, all of which, of course, prolonged Assange's legal purgatory, come to an end now, fortunately. And Starmer has actually said himself that, I think he used this when he was attacking Boris for Partygate. What Starmer has said himself, his own words, is that leadership is about taking responsibility. And if there is an apology to be made, that apology should come from the top, his words. So all of that, very disturbing behavior within the CPS, should he be taking the can from that. Moving on swiftly to the Lib Dems, in their manifesto, they state that they must, quote, support democracies around the world, especially those threatened by aggression, such as Ukraine. They say we must stand up to states like Russia. So they've decided ahead of the election who the goodies are in this conflict, who the baddies are, And they're also committing this vast sum of money to defence or war policy, 2.5% of GDP. And then the fourth party, just to, because time is short today, to focus on today, is that of Reform UK, led by Nigel Farage. And they're also pledging to put 2.5% of Britain's GDP into defence, ACCA, war spending, and they go one step further than the other three parties in pledging to increase that already enormous sum, equivalent to £57 billion, up to 3%, equivalent to £68 billion by the year 2030. And it's of great concern. Yes, we are hearing some interesting noises from Nigel Farage talking about some of the complexities of the situation between Russia and Ukraine, and Robert Bullock will expand on some of those. We are hearing some of that, but at the same time, the Reform Manifesto doesn't give us any inkling as to what their foreign policy might be. So here we are, a wish and a prayer, just about a week away from the election. So the Winning Without War campaign is there largely to alert people, as you said, Andrew, to the dangers of war, how the few profit from it. And we really need to know in the coming week exactly where these parties stand. And if we don't get any more information, then maybe we should draw our conclusions that the pledging of such vast sums of money to defence spending is actually a call for war, which would affect everybody, men and women in Britain.
Yeah, you make some excellent points, Gloria. So it should always be jaw, not war, war. And the amount of money, staggering figures that are being pledged. And a lot of that comes out of fear. And I think what we like to do on the Muckrakers is always shine more light and less heat.
Critically analyzing global affairs. The Muckrakers on today's News Talk, TNT.